Hey, this is Larkin Wilson for Anglers All, and today I want to talk to you guys about what I'm packing for alpine lake trips in Colorado. So when I'm thinking about loading up to go on a high country trip, there are a couple of factors I want to consider when I'm thinking about what I need to pack. First is, what time of year is it? The shoulder season, so early June, later September, early October, the weather's a little bit more extreme in either direction. It's going to be really hot during the afternoon and then really cold during the mornings. So when I'm going on trips either really early or really late in the year, I'm bringing more layers, I'm bringing more calories to keep me going. I'm packing a lot heavier than I normally would for a late July, early August trip, kind of in that sweet spot as far as weather goes. The second thing I'm considering is, how long am I going to be at the particular lake? If I'm only going to be there for the afternoon, I don't need anything more than a backpack, but if I'm loading up my frame pack for a backpacking trip, or if I'm planning on being up there in a few days one way or another, I'm probably going to load up a little bit heavier. While there's certainly more ultralight ways you could go, I've got down a pretty core list of items that I bring with me on every trip. And when I'm looking at this high country gear, I'm breaking it out into three separate categories. The first, core fishing gear. The second is my apparel. And then the third are the accessories. So you have to make sure you factor in where you're going, what time of year you're going, and how long you're going to be there. This will really help you decide how heavy or light do I need to pack. What gear do I really need versus what gear could I use? First, let's dive into our core fishing gear. So when I'm going on these trips, I'm always bringing two rods with me, mostly in case one breaks or I take a tumble on the way up there and I just have to make something work. But the other reason is that I can run two different rigs at the same time, and usually this will take the form of a deep indicator rig, dropping a couple of nymphs, maybe 10 feet down depending on the lake, and another will be either a double dry or a dry dropper rig, maybe even a single dry fly rig, just depending on how picky the fish are at any particular lake. I've found if I'm going to a lake where I know there are larger fish, either based on word of mouth or fish surveys, I'll take a 4-weight and a 5-weight, usually a 10-foot 4-weight and a 9-foot 5-weight. It's a little overkill for some of these places, but when you have a day where the W really picks up, you're gonna be glad that you had that extra oomph to really get your flies out there. If I'm fishing more of a wooded area or there's a place where I'm finding small streams, I'm bringing a 3-weight and a 4-weight. And that'll usually be a 7/6 3-weight, so I can cover those creeks in the in-between. And then my 10-foot 4-weight, so I can cover any part of the lake that I need to. I found that 10-foot length especially useful for both roll casting and then picking up dry flies at a distance. I know it's only an extra foot, but I found it to be helpful myself. So the reels aren't quite as important on this one. A click pawl reel is a good option, especially something like the Ross Colorado if you're trying to go ultralight. For me, I go with disc drag reels across the board, just in case I stumble into a larger fish on my 3 or my 4-weight especially. I need a little bit of stopping power to kind of pump the brakes on those guys. That said, I don't believe that the reel is all that important for these trips. A lot of these fish are not going to be Leviathan tailwater fish. So reels, a little bit less important, more or less a line holder in this particular scenario. Fly lines, extremely important. When I'm fishing these lakes, just fishing true floating fly lines, something like the Scientific Angler's Infinity Taper or the MPX. I love the textured lines, nymphing, throwing dry flies, really anything. I find I have better control over my fly line, especially at a distance. So leaders and tippet. Really not rocket science here. 3 and 4X nylon leaders. You can go 5X if it's really spooky fish that you're dealing with, but in general, you don't need anything smaller than 3 or 4X. I like 3X personally, especially when I'm fishing hoppers. Helps me turn those bugs over, especially if I'm casting into the wind with a longer leader. 9-foot is definitely the place to start as far as leader length, and usually I'll build off of my leaders to add another 3 to 4 feet. Just the longest length that I can possibly get and still cast it effectively. And then as far as tippet goes, I'm taking up 4 and 5X nylon to build off the end of those leaders. Sometimes a 3X as well if I'm going a little bit heavier or I'm having a terrestrial heavy sort of day. And then in the fluorocarbon, I'm bringing a 4 to a 6X range for all my nymphs. Having that thin diameter fluorocarbon that's going to slice through the water a little bit easier with an unweighted nymph, or even for dropping an emerger behind a larger dry fly. Next, obviously, you're going to need floatant and dry shake. I bring the Dry Magic from TMCO. It's a convenient little pen that I've used to great success. And then powdered floatant I use is Top Ride from Loon. Keeps those flies really dry. I'll usually pre-treat with the Dry Magic and then give it a quick dip into that Top Ride. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going a little bit heavier when it comes to flies on these trips, especially earlier in the year when I'm training for my backpacking trips during late summer. So in general, I'm bringing 3 different boxes with me. I'm bringing my dry fly box, holds everything, mayflies, caddis, terrestrials, you name it. I'll bring my small nymph and midge box, which includes a lot of paradagons, a lot of jigs, and then my small streamers, large nymphs box, which is gonna include a lot of buggers, leeches, scuds, chironomids. You could get away with bringing only 1 box into the high country. I just go a little bit heavier because I can, and I like to test as many different patterns and combinations up there as I possibly can, especially during the earlier parts of the year where I'm packing heavier. Now, as far as transporting all this gear, I've really got a go-to setup that I keep coming back to, whether it's the high country or really anywhere I have to hike in and fish. And that's the Thunderhead submersible backpack from Fish Pond, the Cross Current chest pack from Fish Pond. They have snaps in the front that'll link them together that makes it very easy for packing in. If I was going with a more ultralight setup, I would leave the chest pack at home. And the reason I love the Thunderhead, it's fully submersible, waterproof backpack. Anywhere I go, I'm not concerned about rain popping up, snow popping up, any kind of weather conditions. I'm not worried about having to set up in a snowdrift and then having moisture seep into a regular backpack. I know that my camera gear and any other gear that I'm bringing up with me is ironclad in one of these bags. The other thing that's a necessity for me that isn't necessarily for other anglers is a net. I do carry a net with me on all these high country trips, especially as a photographer. If you're not planning on taking any pictures, or if you're a veteran when it comes to handling your fish, feel free to not bring a net. I just find it personally makes me feel a lot better because I can ensure the health of those fish while I'm handling them for whatever reason at all. So the next category we can look at is apparel. Now, again, not rocket science here. You're really looking for sun, bug, and wind protection on these trips. For me, that means either a free fly lightweight hoodie or a Simms Solarflex hoodie, something to keep a bunch of skin covered up, something that's got a hood that I can pop up over my ears and my hat. For the rest of the outfit, I'm usually wearing pants almost 9 times out of 10. Sometimes I'll wear shorts on the especially hot days, or if I'm in a place where there's not a ton of underbrush, but a lot of the times you're gonna prefer a lightweight, quick drying pant like the Simms ultralight pants. They're gonna give you the best protection from both the sun, shrubs, insects, anything that you run into. If you take a spill, you might not get scuffed up quite as much. It's just gonna give you better protection all the way around. The other thing that is an absolute necessity in the high country is a rain jacket. No matter where you go, no matter what time of year you go, no matter what weather conditions are forecasted, you must bring a rain jacket. Do not learn this lesson the hard way. Many people do. There's no reason to. It does not matter if it says that it will be sunny the entire time you're up there. That is a lie. It's a lie, it's a lie. I promise you, it will rain, you'll see some sort of weather condition, and then worst case scenario, you just have an excellent windbreaker to keep you protected from those strong afternoon gusts. The other jacket that I'm bringing up with me year round, and I know this might seem like a little bit of overkill for some people, is a down jacket, a puffy jacket. And during peak season, it's going to feel like overkill, but I promise you, there's gonna be some time throughout the day where you'll be glad that you had that extra warmth that you can rely on. For my footwear, I'm wearing the Simms Flyweight wading boot. I like the ankle support compared to the Flyweight wading shoe. And really, it's my favorite wading boot across the board, regardless of application. In those, I'm using the Patagonia Ulex sock, nice and lightweight. You can also go with the Simms guard socks. And then underneath my Ulex sock, I'll either wear the Simms wet wading sock, or I'll wear just a standard Nike mid-calf. Just something to add in a little bit of abrasion resistance in between the Ulex and my boot. Another massively underrated piece of gear you'll have up in the high country is a good pair of wool gloves. I just have these basic fingerless wool gloves from Simms, and they go a long way for me when my hands get wet and that breeze starts to roll through, especially during cold mornings up there. It might not top out above 45 degrees and you can really feel it in your hand. And last but not least, the category we should take a look at are the accessories that you'll bring on these high country trips. First and foremost is going to be sunscreen. I cannot stress this enough. You will not be okay in the high country without sunscreen. It doesn't matter what your reasoning, what your excuse is, sunscreen on these trips is mandatory. That sun will eat you alive. Put it on first thing in the morning before you think you need it, and then reapply it throughout the day as often as you need it. The other thing that's really nice to have on these trips is some good bug spray, something that'll keep all those mosquitoes off of you. Another thing I'm bringing on all these trips is my water purifying system. I don't like to carry a ton of liquid weight with me when I go up there. Usually I'll have maybe a liter of water, just depending on the hike. I'm also bringing a headlamp with me. Really doesn't matter what time of day I'm hiking in. Having that light is a great ace in the hole option if something does go sideways and I have to get myself out of a grimy situation. Also, be sure you bring enough food on these trips. You're gonna need as many calories as you can get to keep going throughout the day. So I would bring more food than you think you need. If you have to add a little extra weight, so be it. You'll be eating this food on the trip. You're just gonna be packing out your trash. And then the other thing that I don't go into the high country without is a good topographical map for whatever location that I'm going to. You cannot trust technology in a lot of these backcountry places, and having a topographical map is a major key to success. And then last but not least, a good pair of polarized sunglasses with a brown, an amber, or a copper lens is really gonna help you cut through the glare and see deep into these lakes. So I think that wraps it up for me. Like I said, pretty basic setup, but up there, you really don't have to overthink it all that much. Pack as light or as heavy as you want. Just pack responsibly and pack accordingly to your trip, and then you'll be good to go. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope this clears up a little bit of the enigma behind packing for some of these alpine lakes. You really don't have to bring a whole lot to be successful, but there are a few core pieces of gear that are absolutely essential, and I hope I covered that in this video. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.